Everybody, great to see all of the guests here already. So let's put a couple of them up on the screen. Kratika, good to see you. Abalasha, great to see you. So all of Team Turbo that's here. If you're here on LinkedIn, I am in StreamYard, so my ability to respond to LinkedIn comments is limited. But yeah, so if you're watching on LinkedIn, I've got LinkedIn on the phone right here. So yeah, we'll see if I'm able to respond to you. But let me put you over here. I don't quite have my whole setup rigged yet. So I've got a monitor over here that basically is just holding up post-it notes at this point. But yeah, awesome day. This is the 30th and therefore penultimate day of both the 30-day Alteryx challenge. And so the people that went through and did the core, okay, I see Anushree is on LinkedIn. Great to see you. And, oh, cool, I can see you. Awesome. So I've rigged it properly. Outstanding. Let's go Team Turbo. Great to see everybody here. Okay, so I don't need to mess with my phone. That's just going to distract me. Let's turn that off. I killed my battery running this morning anyway, and I never charged it. Okay, cool. But yeah, like I said, 30th and final day of the Alteryx challenge. So my hardcore challengers that have been doing that have been working towards many different certifications, or perhaps just one, just the core certification for Alteryx. We are there. We are at day 30. And we'll recap what we talked about in that first video. Love the love for that first video. It keeps growing and growing. It's up over 400 now, which makes it my third most popular YouTube video on my channel, which is, yeah, just shows you I'm still pretty small time. We're working on it. But yeah, it's been really great to see that video kind of blow up. It's only 7 minutes. Maybe that's a clue to me to keep my videos a little shorter. But yeah, love all the, what's up, Anakin? Good, that's a new, okay, I'm sure we're connected on LinkedIn, but wasn't aware. Anakin, if you're doing the challenge, I'd love to hear about it. Wasn't tracking you as part of the challenge, but if you're not, if you're just dropping by to say hello, love having you. But yeah, so the 30-day core, we started calling it the core challenge. I sort of ditched that real quick because that got confusing with all of the different challenges I have going on. But the 30-day Alteryx challenge, that leads to the designer core certificate. And that's why for a while I was calling it the core challenge. I kind of rebranded some things a couple of times. I was experimenting with some different things with each of the challenges. So I really just kind of called it nothing. There was no real hashtag associated with it. But yeah, appreciate everybody that's here. So we had the 30-day Alteryx core challenge, or whatever challenge you want to call it, Team Turbo challenge, why not? And then that coincided with the 30 days of LinkedIn hard mode, which was the last, we'll see. But we definitely planned for that being the last of the current configuration. Those of you that are hardcore LinkedIn hard mode adherents, I'm open to modifying that into something different going forward. And I've got a couple different ideas. We may convene some sort of meeting of the minds with all the deep thinkers in LinkedIn hard mode. So, you know, Robert Sievert and Paula Small and yeah, lots of different people that love that challenge and participate in it. We'll talk about that. That's a topic for another time. But we're here today to talk mainly about the Alteryx challenge, and that for me coincided because that was the source of most of my content. If you followed me this month, I didn't want to go with the trying to max out metrics. I've done that before in LinkedIn hard mode, and it kind of burns me out real quick. And this month I wanted to make sure that I was kind of engaged and managing to conserve my energy a little bit and get through the month and not be, you know, kind of burned out and only doing my own thing and going internal, as we used to say in the Marine Corps, midway through. And I've definitely done that before. There's been a couple of iterations of hard mode where I mean, I was just posting just to have a post out there. This month, I really wanted to have a purpose to it. And the purpose for me was this Alteryx challenge. So I deeply thank all of the people that participated in the Alteryx challenge. I've had a lot of questions, people saying, hey, does it expire at the end of September? Absolutely not. I set up this and wanted to make this set of content in these videos so that people would have something to go off of. You can download that 30-day free trial anytime you want. Download it on Christmas Day if you like, and do it over New Year's. It'd be great. You can knock this out. It doesn't take you 30 days. I plan 30 days, meaning for people to spend an hour to 90 minutes per day on this, and I maintain that people can complete it in 30 days, devoting that amount of time. I know that Ruby, right there, Rupmathi, she goes by Ruby. She did fail. She got a 90-day download, which is fairly easy if you do the Spark Ed or Sparked or whatever. It looks like Spark Ed. Anyway, it's fairly easy if you're a career pivot, if you're fit into any one of a number of categories, to get a 90-day free download. And that can actually be extended if you earn your core certificate during that 90 days. Ruby did that. She did fail one of the micro-credential tests, and she's about to retake that test. And she's been quite open about that. I'm not shaming Ruby. These tests are tough. I try to allow for that. When in 30 days it makes it kind of tight. If you happen to fail any of the tests, it could be difficult to get there. I guarantee you, the people that run these programs, they're human people, and they want you to use and enjoy Alteryx. So I guarantee if you had a 30-day download and you failed a test on day 27, and that there's no way, you got a 7-day turnaround to retake a test. If you wrote to Sparked and said, hey, can you help me out with a 90-day license so I can get my certification? They're going to do it, even if you don't necessarily fit into one of the prescribed categories. So just Alteryx will work with you. Now, I feel the need to say, I got to tell you that I've been meeting with legal at Alteryx just to make sure that this video series does not conflict with anything that I do in my official capacity for the company. I've been very deliberate about not wearing my Alteryx t-shirts while I'm doing these videos. I don't know if anybody noticed that. Not really referencing my work per se, other than to make a joke here and there. I really don't want to lean on my authority as an Alteryx employee to sell this content. I'm not charging anybody, but to establish my bona fides as a person up here teaching. I don't want anything to seem like I'm using my Alteryx status to get you to watch these videos. I'm not. So, hey, as I'm rambling, if you've got questions, throw them in the chat and I will happily answer them. We really don't have a ton of things to go over today, unless, Ruby, I never got to go over that weekly challenge. If you want to queue that one back up, I'll be happy to stumble through it live on air if people are interested in that. But yeah, so anyway, what was I saying? So I had to meet with legal, and they haven't quite finished giving me the official sign off that, hey, everything on this video playlist is fine. I expect that they will. But really I wanted to do this. Alteryx is wonderful, but I understand that Alteryx is viewed as a niche skill by the data community. And I get it. I get the reasons why. It's not free. By most accounts, it's not cheap. We lean on the return on investment. But for a small business or an individual practitioner, it's not. Most of the licenses for Alteryx, at least in the early going, are not realistic to be buying those. You're more likely going to be using Power BI or something that's a little more affordable. I get that. So, if I was up here talking about SQL or Power BI or Tableau, I'd get a lot more hits and clicks. I got tons of views on the video series where for a while I was just following Alex Freeberg's videos and doing his SQL exercises. I may eventually get back to that, but that was kind of low-hanging fruit. And it's sort of well known in the creator community that if you're doing SQL content, you're hitting that meatball over the heart of the plate. That's easy money. So, not that there's anything wrong with it. Plenty of people that want to study SQL. That's why there's so many eyeballs on it. But yeah, it's sort of easy money, and I didn't want to do that. So we started out with Alteryx in the first 30 days. I intend to move on to some other topics. Maybe some of those. Maybe I will do a SQL 30-day at some point. But this was kind of the stepping stone, and I really wanted to do the thing that I know the best and the thing that I love the most, and that is Alteryx. And I loved Alteryx long before I was hired there. It's not the fact that I work there. I'm not trying to elevate my status at Alteryx. Far from it. I have hardly told anybody at work that I do these videos. There's only a few people on my own team that know that this is going on. So anyway, just trying to keep the worlds apart. Okay, I've been rambling for 11 minutes now. Ruby says she started on September 16th, failed the data prep on September 23rd, which means she still could go within 7 days. Absolutely. However, the schedule that I put out, which I will tweak a little bit in the aftermath of this challenge, the schedule that I put out has people taking the final test, which is the data transformation micro-credential, within that last week. So theoretically, if you failed that, and it's a tough test, theoretically, if you failed that one, you would not have time within 30 days to retake it. Now, you can front load everything and take that last test on day 23 to give yourself a full week to retest if you want to. I'm just saying, if you came up day 27, you failed the data transformation test, and you go to the Sparked, Jay Garcia, good friend of mine, you go to the Spark director and you say, can you hook me up with a 90-day license? Or even just, hey, can I just get another week or another 30 days? I'm sure they would do it. If you say, hey, I've been studying all of this, look at my progress, I've done these weekly challenges, I've done these 3 tests already, just failed the 4th one, can you help me out? They're good people, so they're gonna help you. Yeah, 298, okay. Yeah, we'll give it a try. I did see a screenshot of Ruby's solution, so it looks kind of involved, at least from like the number of tools. So yeah, but we can stumble through, and then if I'm making any terrible mistakes, maybe Ruby can correct me. But we got a couple of tests to go over. Let's talk about that. Okay, I believe 2 days ago, I took the data transformation test. It is challenging. Let's go ahead and take a look at the study guide real quick. Here we go. That's not big enough. All right, we're good there. So here's the study guide. Urge you to look this up. So data transformation is, if you take the tests in order, this is the last one. And I've noticed that the tests, the cut line keeps getting lower. Like the pass score. Yeah, I don't know why that is, but you see here, okay, yeah, 1 attempt every 7 days, got it. You get an hour for this one. That's the longest of all of the micro credentials. All of the other ones, I think, was 45 minutes max. Maybe data prep was 45 minutes. This one's an hour. I didn't need an hour, but obviously I've been doing this for a while. So I think I actually took my time with this one, and it probably took me a shade over a half hour. There are 30 questions. So that's not the longest, somewhere in the middle. Doesn't say the cut line here. Okay, maybe we'll have to go look that up. I want to say it was 60%. Ruby, you took the data transformation. See if you can back me up on the pass rate. I thought it was 60%, or maybe it was like 63. It was like a weird number. We'll talk about, there's one that's 60%. I'll tell you about that. Okay, so 3 tools that they've added. So it says it was 60%. Thank you, Ruby. 3 tools on the data transformation exam: crosstab, summarize, and transpose. That's a little misleading. There are 3 additional tools on the data transformation exam, in addition to all the ones we've already learned. So essentially, the data transformation exam, you're expected to know all of the tools on the core certificates, all of the data prep tools we've learned. I don't think there's any parsing on this test, but you will have to supplement your data transformation knowledge with with the preparation tool. So there are things where in order to summarize, you're going to have to filter. In order to summarize, I don't think there's any formulas. It doesn't get rigorous with the other tools. So that's why I say I don't think there's any parse, but I deliberately kind of brain dumped this afterwards because I don't want to be sitting here saying, the answer to question number 27 is this, or there's this many questions of this type. I can tell you that I went through and I counted the types of questions and the questions on different topics, and it seemed like the study guide was accurate. What I saw on that, I copied that into a Word doc, and then as I went through, it's like summarize question, and I put a little hash mark next to the summarize, and transpose question, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, yeah, keep it moving. It is, I would say, if you're a beginner, it is possible to run out of time on this test. An hour is not bad, but you definitely could run out of time here. Tips, yeah, these are all boilerplate. We've seen these before. Learning resources, yes, et cetera, et cetera. Weekly challenges, tons of weekly challenges on summarize. There's some, the ones with transpose and crosstab tend to be a little complex. So, okay. These questions, let me catch up on the chat. Abhilasha has taken the 90 days license just in case. Good. I highly recommend that. Put in for the Spark license. Only takes, those of you that have put in for it, back me up. It only takes a minute or two to fill out the form. They generally approve just about everybody. I definitely heard from some people at the start of the challenge kind of despairing, like, oh, I'm not a job, career pivot. I'm not a service member, veteran. I'm not a, just put in for it. Just tell the Spark program why you want it. If you're changing jobs, if you're looking to change jobs, if you're looking at a job that involves Alteryx, they're probably gonna give it to you. It's 90 days. It doesn't cost us anything. I say us, I mean Alteryx, not in my capacity as an Alteryx person here. Okay, Abhilasha has taken the 90 days license just in case. Started on the 22nd, working all day on the lessons. Okay, keeps me glued. One more micro credential to go. Excellent. Learning styles, I've been around long enough and I've trained and educated enough different types of people to know different people have different learning styles. There are people that swear, there are a million studies that say, oh, ultra learning is the greatest. And you want to just immerse yourself and just learn like for hours and hours a day. And there's an equal number of people that say, hey, if you do 30 minutes a day on each of these things, assuming you have different modalities that you want to learn, I'm trying to learn to play the guitar. Once upon a time, I was passable in Persian Farsi, and I'd love to get back to that. I want to keep playing the guitar. I want to learn foreign languages. I feel like that makes you a smarter person. I've let it stagnate for a long time. So I have other interests other than just the immediate data project, and I assume you do too. So I would say somewhere in between. I have had success with both kind of ultra learning and total immersion. I find that when I kind of come up for air from a week-long kind of burn hot on one topic session, I feel like I've lost track with the rest of the world, with my other projects, and it makes me feel behind, and I don't like that. So Ruby says it was 60%. Got it. Great work, Abhilasha. Abhilasha is coming up on data transformation. Okay, needed some time to work out on crosstab and transpose. Yeah, they're tricky. I will say that I did have this written down, and I think it's downstairs. I will say that the prac apps, I think there are 4 prac apps on transformation. I think they focus mostly on summarize. The multiple choice questions are heavy on transpose and crosstab, and study the configurations. What does a key column do? What does a group by column do? Anytime you designate a column, whether you're transposing or cross-tabbing, if you designate a column, it stays a column and it keeps its own name. You're going to get a ton of, you've got this input and this output. What tool produced that? And you just got to pick between the 3. You've only got 3 to pick from. So you're going wide to tall, that's transpose, right? You're starting out with the T, transpose, wide to tall. If you're going tall to wide, you're cross-tabbing. If you're schmunching down and you've got like new field names and numbers have been added together, that's summarize. So those should be fairly simple. You'll get a, hey, this is a transpose tool. We went from this input to that input. What's the configuration? Or this is a crosstab tool. This input to that output. What's the configuration? Quite a few of those. And then what else? Dang it, I had these written down. But yeah, it's a lot of how do you configure this? What tool will produce this output? All that sort of thing. Okay. So, Abhilasha, I would say when you feel like about 60% ready, go ahead and take a swing at it. You got 90 days. And then if you get that certification, I know Ruby, I think, is gunning for advanced. If you get the core cert within 90 days, go resubmit to Spark, show them your certificate. They'll give you another 90 days. So if you're being cagey, this might be the master move. If you're being super cagey, maybe wait until like 80, 85 days to get that core cert and then put it in. Maybe like you're studying for the advanced and then you wait until the end of the 90 days, put in that and then pull the trigger on it, take your test, you earn your core cert, maybe give yourself a week in case you fail it, but 80 to 83 days. Take that test, pass your core cert, then turn it in and say, give me my 90 days. Then you got 3 whole months to get ready for advanced. You can do that. It's tough. Advanced test is tough. And they have not revised it yet. So last year, the core test got a revision, which we'll talk about, because I took the core test too. I'll tell you about that. I did not violate the rules. I read the rules very carefully. I did not violate the rules making 2 profiles, but I'll talk about that briefly. But yeah, wait until towards the end of the 90 days, finish the core cert, then throw in your application at Spark and say, I got my core cert, give me another 90 days. And I think you could do a real good study for the advanced test and let it rip, like, maybe go at like 60 days, give it a test run, see what you need to focus on for that last couple of weeks. And then, 83 days or so, give it a good attempt. That way you got a week to burn hot. I'm always looking for they aren't shortcuts, hacks. Let's say hacks, okay? Ruby's got something crosstab, a lot of focus on crosstab, possible aggregations, configurations, yes. So crosstab, obviously you've got key columns that you can designate, they are optional. And those will retain their name and orientation as columns. So just remember that right off the bat. Key columns and group by columns, depending on a crosstab, transpose or crosstab. Key columns and group by columns, how are they? They're staying. They're still columns. Okay, they keep the name. They keep their orientation as columns. What's up, Abed? Thank you. They keep their orientation as columns. Everything else in a transpose, everything else that you select as data columns, you don't have to select everything, but everything you select as data columns is going to pivot into 2 columns, and that is name and value. Can't change those. You got to use the select tool afterwards to change them. Okay. So you're going to get however many key columns you designate plus 2 is going to be your output. And those plus 2 will be name and value. On crosstab, you are going from tall to wide data. And so you're designating as many group by columns as you want, or 0, so they're optional. And then you pick 2 other columns. So essentially you're taking the name and value columns and flipping them back. They don't have to be called name and value, but you're taking 2 columns and one will become your column names and one will become your data. You need to select a method of aggregation, whether or not you're aggregating. All right. Abed says, love the work you do. Hey, thanks for being here, Abed. Appreciate you. If you're going through the challenge, tell us where you're at. Tell us what your results have been. Karadika, Albert and Ruby are always full of tricks. We are indeed. Let's just call them hacks. I don't like shortcuts, tricks. Has kind of a negative connotation. They're hacks. Hacks. Like when you go into the filter and you do the basic filter, and then you're like, I want the complex filter. It's a hack. It's just a little thing, something to make it easier. Ruby says, any advice for me? I would have achieved core in my current 30-day license, so how to get 180 days when I start on Spark later, because I could use the extra time. Yeah, absolutely, Ruby. Like I said, I would wait. I don't know. So if you pass your test now, I'm assuming you're going to pass your data transformation now. I don't know if you wait until the end of the 90 days to reapply for Sparked, if at that point they would give you another 90, or would they backdate the 90 to when you pass the core exam? And I don't know a way to ask that without making it seem like I'm trying to cheat the system. Anyway, yeah. So let's not get too far into that. If you want to, Ruby, if you want to kind of play the game and see how long you can get, maybe wait until the end of the 90 days and put in for another Sparked. If you want to be totally honest, just tell them as soon as you get your core exam, maybe wait a week. But yeah, that's what I would say. But yeah, Ruby's shooting for the stars at this point. Okay, so yeah, apply the summarize tool. We've got 30 questions. 40% of it are summarize, either configuration or practical application. So that's 40 times 12. 12 questions of the 30 are summarized. So summarize is kind of the heavy lift here. Transpose and crosstab about 30, so what, 8 or 9 questions each. And then transpose and crosstab in tandem, 3%, which is what, 1 question? All right. So yeah, 30 total. Yep, so that adds up. It's, yeah, for practical application, they're really not, I don't think any of the practical application you had to do transpose and crosstab in tandem. I think it's one of those, like, what sequence of tools produces this outcome. So just a multiple choice. Yeah, I didn't find this test that tough. It wasn't easy. The reason why it took me a half hour to get it done was there's just some kind of brain cramp type multiple choice questions where you're kind of staring at it going, not 100% certain on this. There are a couple say, like, what will cause an error in this configuration? And it's generally, you think about what's going to cause an error in the configurations. If you've double selected columns, like if you've selected something for both the name and value column in the crosstab, that's going to cause an error. If you haven't selected an aggregation method, that's going to cause an error. There's really only a couple of things in transpose and crosstab that is going to cause an error. There's nothing in summarize that's going to cause an error other than not selecting anything. So yeah, there's only a handful of those, but really these tools are pretty forgiving. Okay, awesome, Anushree. Yeah. Yeah, don't be intimidated by transpose and crosstab. They're iterative. You've got time. Have Designer up, and this is, I know that Ruby said she ran out of time in data prep. Here's my recommendation. I use 3 monitors to include my laptop. So I have my laptop in the middle and I have a side monitor on either side. You may not have the setup or the money to afford that. I don't judge where you are, but if you can get, 2 even like cheap junky monitors, you borrow the one from, your husband, your wife, whoever else has a computer in your household. If you do, just get a 3 monitor setup. I like to have the test on I have, like, on my left monitor, which is a bigger monitor, I have the test interface up. On the center one, I have my downloads folder, and usually a clock showing me whatever time that I set for myself that I want to hit. And then on the right, I have Designer up. The use to that is it makes it much faster to get through the downloads of the Prac app data files. So what happens is a practical application comes up and they are randomly interspersed within the test. Practical application comes up, there is a link embedded in the text saying this data set, and the data set is a hyperlink. You click on that hyperlink, it downloads immediately. It's going to go into your downloads folder. If you have your downloads folder sorted by last modified, it's just the top file, and then I just scroll my mouse over, I drag the file and drag it straight over into Designer, and it drops in and it's a data input. I will tell you, on none of these tests, to include the full core exam, on none of them is there any shenanigans with data input configurations, or there's no data output anywhere. Those things I find tricky, and those questions can trip me up. on the tests. If you have to mess with the configuration of bringing it in, wildcards I find somewhat difficult. I had to go over wildcards in a class I taught Thursday, I think. So yeah, those are tough topics for me. Outputting to different tabs, I had to go over that as well. Those are kind of tough topics. None of the prac apps contain any of that. So have no fear. Practical applications generally do not have configuration shenanigans involved in them. The worst you're going to see is they're going to trip you up by making you change data types, and they'll trip you up by, like changing data types really. But other than that, like case. So like title case, lowercase, making things case insensitive. Those are the only things that will mess you up in the configuration. Other than that, it's just, can you use the tool for its basic function, yes or no? If I give you a problem, can you figure out which tools are going to solve it, yes or no? That's it, okay? Ruby's talking about her setup. Yeah, bookmark the prac app to do it at the end. Okay, that's a tactic. When I originally passed the designer core and I had struggled with it, I had failed it the first time, I don't think I did the prac apps first, but looking at the points, I prioritized the practical applications. I was like, okay, come hell or high water, I'm going to get the practical applications done and spend time figuring out the right answer. And if I had to motor through multiple choice and just give it best guess, then I did. The first time I passed it, I didn't run out of time, but I came very close. So yeah, come back to the bookmark questions, download the prac app files all at once. I found that if I was clicking download and then I was going to the downloads folder and swiping it directly into Designer, that was quick enough and I could do that efficiently enough that I didn't need to do them all at once, but to each his own. Okay, Abhilasha said, ran out of time in data prep, bookmarked and came back at the last for the data manipulation test. Okay, hey, good, all good different tactics. Yeah, I would say like don't get hung up. If you feel like you have to look something up, and you definitely should, the thing that I felt I had to check was sometimes it would talk about configurations like what is in the workflow configurations tab and what is in the options or user settings tab. I felt like I needed to check some of those because I always forget which is which. Those were ones that if I was pressed for time, I would mark them and come back at the end. Give it your best guess, mark the question, come back at the end, open up Designer and check it. So that would be me. Cool, yeah, 2 monitors. 3 is better, but 2 is, yeah, I would say doing it with 1, that's tough. I mean, you'd have to be super fast with the cross tab. Yeah, if I was doing it with 1 monitor, I'd be hard pressed. Okay, so that is data transformation. We covered everything within the learning path before. So if there are specific questions about the data transformation test, go ahead and let them rip. So 2 days ago, I passed the data transformation test. I have been doing all of these micro credentials for this video series with my Alteryx username. So when I joined Alteryx, I had a username that I had passed a bunch of weekly challenges and had some WASTA or some street cred on the community sites with my personal account. The username is logdog0411. It's my picture. It's the same picture that's on my profile on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And so I had a bunch of stuff on there. Then when I got hired at Alteryx, you get an Alteryx user ID. So I didn't make 2 user IDs. A second user ID was given to me. And at the time I tried to reconcile them and said, hey, can we merge these? Can I get like the credit for all of my posts and my weekly challenges and all that? And the answer that came back was not really. And so at that point I said, okay, well, I can either try and gain all of this on my Alteryx account, but what happens if, I work for a few years for Alteryx and then I go take another job and then I wouldn't have that account anymore and now I'd have to anyway. So I decided I was still going to kind of do all of the things on my personal account. And so when I submit a weekly challenge, that's what I usually do. My advanced certification is on my account. So when I did this series, I said, okay, well, I want to do the micro credentials and I want to kind of do them sight unseen. So I did them on my Alteryx account, on the community username and password, which is major data. And then, so I passed all of the micro credentials 2 days ago, passed the data transformation. Major data is now Alteryx core certified. I then said, well, I want to be able to inform the people about the core certification. And the last time I took it was like 2 years ago, December. Because since then I passed the advanced certification, so my core certification updated. And they've revised the core cert since then, and I have not taken the new test. So I used my personal account, logdog0411, that community username, to go today, right before this class, right before this recording session, and I did the core certification as well. So I can talk about that. If anyone is not doing the micro-credentials, if anyone is taking all of the time to study up for the one test, I can tell you it's challenging. The test is 2.5 hours. It is 80 questions. You have time to get finished. It used to be 80 questions in 2 hours, and I can tell you that was some tough sledding. I struggled on that, and the first time I tried it, I ran out of time, for sure. It is 2.5 hours. It is changed from the first time I passed it. So let's talk about that. The first time I took it, it was 80 questions, and it was 7 practical application questions. There are now 10 practical application questions on the full core certificate test. Those questions, almost all of them involved every question involved some sort of data transformation. Almost all of them were summarized. I think there was one that used transpose or crosstab. There were some parse questions. There were 0 questions that did anything weird with configuration. There was nothing that played with data input or data output. So now there are plenty of multiple choice questions on that, but nothing in the practical application. The practical application, just like in the micro-credentials, is about, can you use the tools? Can you handle a problem set and figure out which tools are required? On that, 10 questions, there were a couple of them that required 5 tools to solve. Most of them required 3 or 4. And yes, all of those, that includes the data input. So if you take the data input as boilerplate, some of them required 4 follow-on tools. So that's data prep, parse tools, transformation tools. I'm trying to remember if there were any joins. I don't think so. Yeah. So really the focus on the practical application, data prep, parse, transform. Emphasis on the summarize tool in particular. That was present in almost every problem. A lot of filtering, not a lot of formulas. So there's that. Focus on those things. So here we have percent of the exam, general designer knowledge and optimization. There's questions about the configuration. Going into, what is in workflow configuration? What are the options to optimize your workflow? Those are the ones where you just pull up Designer, like you think you have a pretty good answer, but you pull up Designer and you check. Okay, input, output, data, and preparation. There are multiple choice questions about configurations of input and output data. And doing the multiple tabs, outputting to multiple CSV files. You need to know those things. Blending data and parsing is a big section, and transformation of data is a big section, and data prep, obviously. For the multiple choice, you've got to know all of these tools. There are questions on every single one of them. I don't remember a question on tool container, but every other one in here, there's a question on it. So you need to understand all of them. Yeah, anybody, let me know if anyone out there is doing the full core certification. I'm curious. I know there was at least one person that was planning on doing that. Okay. What do we got here? Okay, so weekly challenges. There are so many of them that are helpful. Just look at them and see what they stress. So I know there's people like transpose and crosstab make me nervous. Understand that. Go find those. But I will just say, like, for emphasis of the prac apps, focus on transformation and data prep, because that's where the money is made for practical application. And when you think about the problems sets that you face at work, what is the focus? Preparation and summarization, aggregating numbers, finding measures of central tendency. That's another thing that I'll stress to you. Measures of central tendency. When you do the practical applications, what is it asking for? Is it asking for a mean? Is it asking for a median? I don't think I saw any modes, but mean and median, they ain't the same thing, folks. So pay attention to what the question is actually asking you. All right. General designer knowledge and optimization. And you see it breaks it down here a little better on this full core test than it does for the micro credentials, because they're kind of high level, like big headings. All right. But yeah, study this. Every point here is covered on the test with at least one question. Troubleshooting, like finding out what is happening, what's an error, and what's going to cause an error in a join, in a union. In a union with a certain configuration, what's going to cause, how many columns are you going to get output? Okay, so know the difference between join by name or union by name, union by position. All those useful to know. Okay, that is that. All right, Ruby, which one do you want to do? 298? Let's take a look. Let's go to the index. Okay, 298, Christmas treasure box. Is this it? Prep, join, data prep, transform. I don't know why preparation and data preparation are supposed to be two different things, but won't quibble with that. It's a good word. You got to bust that one out every once in a while. Quibble. Okay. Let's download the start file. I won't download the solution file. Confidence in my own abilities. Let's do this. Yeah, it's a Bell's Brewing glass, but it's nothing but turmeric and carbonated water in there. Still morning on Saturday. I have some scruples. Let's open the file. All right, everybody having a good time? Let's go, Lappy Top. Hey. Still, if anyone's got any suggestions for a new laptop, I know Z by HP, those are really good for data people. I'm trying to keep the business and personal expenses separate, treating this like a business expense. So I've made enough money off of resumes. You know, if anybody needs a resume, hit me up. But I've made enough money off of resumes now that I can probably afford to buy a new laptop as long as it's not super expensive with the business funds. So I may do that because this laptop ain't doing it. I do need to get a better setup for the studio here as well. That'll be happening. You'll see the lighting eventually upgrade. I meant to kind of do some of that this month. I did move upstairs. I did buy some like Walmart lights to light it up. What the? Uh-oh. I may have to do a supplemental video for this one. Okay. I guess my 30 days ran out. All right. Tell you what, we will. I'll just do a Q&A because we're already at 45 minutes, and I don't want to belabor this one too much. So I thought sure I downloaded it on the first. Maybe I overshot by a day. Anyway, so I will do a supplemental video maybe tomorrow. No, I'm traveling tomorrow. I'll do a supplemental video tacked onto this playlist where I'll do weekly challenge 298, and I'll just go running off of my work computer. You didn't hear that here. But yeah, Alteryx legal, I think that's fine. I think we're allowed to record videos off our work computer. But anyway, yeah, so we'll do that some other time. So that is, let's call that a study session for these two tests. These challenges are enough to put on a resume as a project. With Alteryx, it's a little tough to present it. I would if I was going for a job that required Alteryx. So the question here, are the challenges enough to put on a resume as a project? I would say yes if you're going for a job that requires Alteryx. I would say also yes if you're really hanging your hat on your project section, like you don't have a ton of work experience and you have some diversity of projects. So I would say, yeah, if you're going for a job that specifically says we need an Alteryx developer, absolutely. If you're going for a job that has Alteryx listed as one of the skills, and then said, and Excel, and Power BI, and blah, 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 I would try to show something for all of them. And maybe I would include one Alteryx project. You got to make sure it's a good one. Weekly challenges are kind of tough because you sort of have to prove that you've produced value. Weekly challenges, the solution's right there. So they're fun challenges and all, but I mean, you could just download the solution and pass it off as your own work. Not saying you would or that I would, but it's easy to do. And so what you really need for projects is something where the hidden value in a project is just being able to brief it. So you could go on Kaggle or you could go on somebody else's portfolio, download their code, pass it off as your own and say, did the project. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. But being able to sit there and say, what I was thinking when I wrote this chunk of code was it would do this, this, and this, and you can tell the story of it. Well, I made a mistake here, and originally I had it written this way, but it's... An interviewer knows when they ask you about a project, people are they just speak differently when they're talking about things that they actually did. So that tends to shine through. I would say, yeah, now it's tricky because are you going to are you going to have a YXMD workflow file with your project? Are they going to be able to click through and see that? A screenshot doesn't always tend to be terribly convincing. So it is a bit of a challenge to include Alteryx projects in a data work portfolio. There are ways to do it. You can download it all as XML code, and you can't. That nobody but a turbo nerd can read the darn thing. But yeah, I have done that. I do have on my terrible GitHub. I do have Alteryx projects downloaded entirely as XML code. I don't know how effective that is. I've never had a hiring manager look at my GitHub and be like, ooh, let's hire this guy. Like I said, it's terrible. So, and it's disorganized and there's just kind of chunks of stuff on there. There's some SQL stuff. There's some basic Python projects and some R, and there's just nothing. It's not a portfolio. It's just kind of a smattering of work things. So anyway, all right, what else? We got other questions? I love seeing it's always weird on StreamYard because you'll see the viewers, and I think it only shows you the YouTube viewers, but it'll be 5. And then you look up 30 seconds later, it's 1. If there's people commenting, I'm like, how's it 1? So anyway, must be something weird with the interface between StreamYard and the other platforms. All right. So that is that. Let's go back to the learning path. Okay. So the only other thing I said we would talk about today is what are we doing next? Any suggestions? Who's got a request? I will tell you the one thing, so Ruby, before you ask, the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to go I want to keep these 30-day challenges as manageable for entry level or sort of low level data analysts. And so obviously this one was quite simple for me. I've been working with Alteryx for 2 years. I've been working at Alteryx for the better part of a year. And so this is right in my wheelhouse. The next one, whatever it is going to be a bit more challenging for me because I'm okay at Tableau, but I don't work in it constantly. I'm okay at SQL, but I'm not advanced, certainly. So I'm not going to be like ripping through tests and being like, look, I knocked this one out in 5 minutes, like I do with Alteryx. So the next 30-day challenge is going to be a bit more of a challenge for me, not just in producing content, but also in actually getting through it and doing the exercises. So at some point, I may try and do something with the Alteryx Advanced Cert, but it definitely is not going to be this November, like 30 days to your Advanced Cert. I don't want to sell people a bill of goods. I personally don't believe that in a manageable amount of time, a working data professional can get to the Advanced Cert in an hour or 90 minutes of study a day. It's more complicated than that. So that's not a realistic goal. I want to set realistic goals for people. Can we give some ideas to build end-to-end Alteryx projects? I was actually thinking about this morning when I started running. I really feel like the secret sauce, and I had an intern at Analect that, all in all, he was not a great intern. The one cool thing he did, and I talked him onto it, and I meant to do it myself, and I never did. He did the Google Analytics course, Google Data Analytics through Coursera, all of that. And it seemed like he did a passable job. He really didn't do much else. But at the end, he was asking me, well, what can I do with this? And I said, you must, and tell this to all of you. If you do the Google Data Analytics course, do the capstone project. Do the capstone project, do the capstone project. No ifs, ands, or buts. Do it. It's like sending a message with your LinkedIn connection. Just do it. Trust me. Otherwise, it's worthless. Because you haven't proven you've learned anything. So do the capstone project. I convinced this young man to do his capstone project in Alteryx because I just said, hey, you're going to set yourself apart. At the end of honestly, it's so simple to do the capstone project. All you've got to do is copy the R script that they give you into RStudio, run it, and then you can just do the visualization and the report from there. If you want to get fancy, you can just take the data that's output, put it into Tableau, make a couple of graphs out of it, click like, give me PowerPoint, and it's essentially made. Like you can write a couple of captions saying what you found, but it literally could take an hour's worth of work to do the capstone project for the Google Data Analytics. I convinced this guy to do, like, you want to set yourself apart, do the whole project in Alteryx, start to finish. And he did. And he actually did a pretty good job of, I showed him how to organize the workflow and color code it and all this stuff, and he did a pretty darn good job. I was amazed. So that to me is, find a project that's not an Alteryx project. Go get the Titanic data set off of Kaggle. Everybody's done it. It sounds ridiculous. You're like, oh, I predicted the mortality for the Kaggle data set. And you're like, you and every other hopeful machine learning engineer on the face of the planet. Neat. But if you said, I took the Titanic data set and I used Alteryx machine learning tools to predict the mortality rate, that might actually be kind of impressive. Again, if you're trying for a job that requires Alteryx. So that's what I would recommend. Don't look for Alteryx projects. Look for data projects and figure out ways to get them done in Alteryx. The thing that I started to do a while back, and I totally stopped doing it, and I need to get back to it, is doing weekly challenges end to end. And what I mean by end to end is you're bringing it in. If you can set up a database where you're uploading the data into the database, you're not even swiping files from your desktop into Designer and just going through easy. You're putting the data into a database, Microsoft SQL Server instance on your machine. And then you're doing a database connection to bring it into Alteryx. That shows a level of sophistication that, is not is not common. So you're pulling data from a database with database connections. The data input can do it. And then you're running it through Alteryx, and then you're potentially outputting to a database or you're outputting to a report. And so you're using the reporting tools rather than just a browse or an output data to go to a file or something. Maybe you output back to the database to another sheet. That would be pretty cool. Maybe you use in-database tools to do a lot of the processing in SQL Server before bringing it into Alteryx for some reason. Or maybe you just do the whole thing if it's a simple thing. Be pretty fancy if you could run the whole thing on in-database tools, so where no data actually ever comes into Designer. That'd be pretty neat. But there's a ton of things that you can do in Alteryx with the weekly challenges. It's just over and above what they ask for. For a while I did weekly challenges and I was putting pictures on them and I was grouping them in interesting ways and I was color coding everything and taking a snapshot, and it really looked kind of cool. Recommend that. Just look for ways to set yourself apart. But yeah, basic to intermediate, absolutely. Yeah, graduate. Don't keep pressing the easy button. Don't keep doing the easy ones. Do the tough ones. Suggest some projects and provide us an edge in the data market. So I don't have a preferred repository for projects. If you go to LinkedIn and look up a dude named Andrew Madsen, if you're not already following him, white guy, kind of sandy blonde hair, glasses, good dude. He puts out some really great content, and he puts a lot of thought and time and energy into his content, and it is valuable. It is, and he's going out there. He's an influencer. He's looking for clout, but that's not always a bad thing. He's looking for clout by putting out valuable things that people want. So that's good. Like, you don't have to worry about whether or not he's a clout chaser. Just take the stuff he gives you and make use of it. Recently, I want to say yesterday, he put out a multi-page output of projects for young data scientists or young data analysts. I would go there because that just looks amazing. And a lot of people were saying, hey, I'm going to spend my whole weekend working on these. Cool. Do that. A lot of those, there was nothing specific to Alteryx on there. He did tag me, so some of this is not altruistic. Like, I want you to go look at his post because it helps me raise my cred and my clout. But just saying, he's a friend of mine. He recognizes me as someone who knows about Alteryx. So he tagged me on there as, a kind of content creator about Alteryx. He didn't put any Alteryx projects on there. I will say that any one of those projects that he listed could probably be an Alteryx project. Go get it. If it's a SQL project, go do your SQL in Alteryx. You can use the data input tool. There are various tools that can conduct SQL queries in Alteryx. You can set up a SQL Server instance on your machine for free. Recommend Alex Freeberg's videos on how to do that. That's how I learned. Set up a SQL Server instance on your machine and SSMS and use that, upload the data to your own server, and then get it into Alteryx and work on it. That's what I recommend. So, but those projects you can do, he's got a ton of SQL projects listed, he's got a ton of Python projects listed, R projects, Tableau, I think. So yeah, go get the free downloads. Okay, so I'm coming up on an hour. Let's wrap this up. Which platform, please repeat. If you're talking about that document, Andrew Madsen published that on LinkedIn. Andrew does this thing where he belongs to a ton of data groups. So like the Power BI group and the data scientists groups and all of this stuff. He will post something out in the open and then he will go post it to each and every group. It's an interesting tactic. I'm thinking about, after LinkedIn hard mode is over, I'm thinking about copying it because I talked to him about it. It's a good tactic. But anyway, he posts it everywhere. Andrew Madsen, Madson is the man's name. So he's got, you can't miss him. He's got probably 50,000 followers on LinkedIn. Go find that, download that document, use it. That's what it's there for. He's providing great service through his content, which, the best content creators are giving good, valuable things away for free. It's a tactic. It's a means to an end, but there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so what's next? Yeah, most people guessed it. I did toy with the idea of going Power BI in November. Not going to do that because I have got, this was a while back. I got this one. Let me close out the screen. I'm being a bad presenter. Okay, so I got this book a while back. I reviewed this. If you want to go see the review, it's on my LinkedIn. Not LinkedIn. Well, it's probably on LinkedIn. It's on my YouTube. So you can see the review of this book. I did one sit in my garage on my weight bench. So I did a cursory read of this for the review. I want to go back and do kind of a more in-depth because, so a couple of things with doing Tableau for a challenge. Tableau only allows a 14-day download. So that's a bit restrictive, and I don't think they have too many allowances for career pivots or anything. They don't have a Sparked equivalent. I did get this recently. If you remember the unboxing video I did on LinkedIn, I will do a review of this soon. I will do a review of this in October for LinkedIn, Amazon, everywhere like such as. But I will use these two books in November. And I think 14 days, I'll do a 30-day challenge. I'll do 14 days to get the desktop specialist certification. I don't think I even need that much. It's not a difficult test. I toyed with the idea of trying to do the data analytics certificate. Again, I want to keep these things manageable for people, and I want you to get certificates that you can earn in the time frame. So 14-day download, I will earn the desktop specialist certification. I've promised that before. There's another reason why I want to do it, because I've toyed with this idea before. But Mastering Tableau, thanks very much to Pact and Marlene Meyer for giving me this book. Contingent that I would post reviews, which I've failed to do yet. I did an unboxing video. So anyway, look for that in November, but I will combine a 30-day challenge in November, getting that certificate, and then doing some stuff out of this book. And we'll make it a 30-day challenge somehow. I'll think of tactics to get it 30 days. We may have to do some Tableau Public things. I'll try and figure out how much of the exercise in this book can be done on Tableau Public. But anyway, unless, hey, Tableau, if you're watching and you want some free publicity, if you give me a 30-day download, obviously other people can't copy that. So, cool. And I could probably get an extended download through the veteran community, but anyway. Okay, Aaron Kumar is here. What up, Aaron? Yes, suggest some projects and its source as well. Go look up that. I may download Andrew Manson's document and may repost it, post it myself tomorrow and tag him, and just to get it kind of some more run. But yeah, go look that up. That's my recommendation right now. Anashri has the link. Cool. Okay. All right, we're over an hour, and my wife is probably tapping her foot downstairs because we are overdue to go do the week's shopping. Yeah, if you need help with a resume, I'm available. My schedule is clearing up a bit. I had a bit of a backlog there for a while. Had a couple of presentations that I had to make. Those of you that came to my Alteryx for Excel users on Thursday, thank you everybody for showing up. We had a great crowd. That was a good time. I know that some of the Team Turbo members were there, and I deeply appreciate that. Anytime you support one of those events, and that's just good advice. If you want to kind of curry favor with an influencer, and I still do the air quotes when talking about myself there, but any influencer, if they have a public event where they're putting themselves forward and you show up and support that event, that means the world to them, and it definitely means the world to me. So thank you everybody that showed up for that. And thank you everybody that showed up for this. All right, Team Turbo, everybody that was here, everyone on YouTube, everyone on LinkedIn, everyone that watches this later. This is the final video of the 30 days. I will supplement this playlist with some more, probably some weekly challenges here and there, and just use that same branding and put it on that same playlist, even though my 30 days is up. But I would say that this 30 days was a success. We got some people in, we got some people certified, and that was the whole goal. And as all content creators, the goal is to provide content of value to the audience. So, Aaron, glad you got something out of it, and glad you got the projects. Absolutely. Kratika, thanks for coming. Abhilasha, we're slowing down here. Thank you. Always keep growing. Absolutely. That's the point of the challenges. We keep growing. We keep certifying because you want proof of of knowledge and learning. Okay. Smashing success. I agree, Ruby. Thank you. Cool. Okay. Folks, that is all the time I have. Thanks everybody for coming, and let's give it the tagline. So, what did we do? Follow me, folks, and I'll make you a genuine Alteryx hero and eventually Tableau hero just like me. Catch you later.